She opened her inbox and saw her husband's name in the subject line. But it wasn't a love letter. It was a divorce. No warning, no phone call, no goodbye. Just 12 cold words. I can't do this anymore. Please consider this the beginning of the end. Her name was Ava. She was 32, a school librarian in a small, windswept town in Rhode Island. Quiet, thoughtful, always dreaming of a love that would finally feel like home. And then came Hunter. They met in a language exchange app of all places. He lived in Vermont. Tall, charming, the kind of man who wrote long, poetic texts, the kind that said good morning every single day without fail. And from that distance, he seemed perfect. Too perfect, maybe. They met in person only 3 times. Once in Boston, once in Newport, once at a coffee shop that smelled like cinnamon and frost. And after just 3 weekends, they made a decision that surprised even themselves. They got married. No big wedding, no guests, just a quiet courthouse ceremony, a cold winter breeze, and 2 hearts full of hope. People warned her. You barely know him. How can you marry someone you've only seen a few times? But love doesn't follow logic, does it? It follows longing. It follows the hunger to be seen, to be held, to be chosen. So Ava said yes, and Hunter promised forever. But forever turned out to be shorter than anyone expected. They agreed to keep their homes. He stayed in Vermont. She stayed in Rhode Island. They called it long-distance commitment. They said they'd make it work. Love, after all, was about trust. But trust is hard when you're not there to see the small things. When you can't tell if someone's voice is tired from work or tired of you. The calls became shorter, the texts less frequent. Photos stopped. Phone off. No response. Ava kept holding on. She told herself it was stress, maybe his job, maybe family, maybe something he was too proud to admit. She bought a train ticket to surprise him one weekend, but when she got to his place in Vermont, he wasn't there. Lights off, curtains drawn. Silence. She waited 4 hours on his porch. No message. No call. That night, she returned to Rhode Island with frost in her bones and a crack in her heart. And then, 5 days later, that email. Just 12 words. 12 words that shattered everything she thought was real. After that email, Ava sat frozen. Her tea had gone cold beside her. The room felt smaller somehow, heavier. She read the message again, then again, as if maybe this time the words would change, as if the screen would blink and say, just kidding. But it didn't. It never did. She called him, straight to voicemail. She texted. No answer. She emailed back. No reply. At first, she thought, maybe he needs time. Maybe he's afraid, or hurting, or confused. She waited. 1 day, 2 days, a week. But nothing came. Just that silence. Sharp and endless, like wind through an empty hallway. She kept checking her phone, waking up at night, unlocking it, just in case. She'd whisper his name in the dark. Hunter? Like maybe if she said it softly enough, the universe would return him. But the only reply she ever got was from the wind against her windows. She started seeing signs everywhere. A man at the grocery store who wore the same cologne. A song on the radio that used to make them laugh. Even a stray dog on her street, looking lost and abandoned. Everything reminded her of him, and everything hurt. She searched for answers. Did he meet someone else? Was he ever truly in love with her? Had the whole marriage been a mistake? She even searched his name online. Found nothing. No new social media posts. No updates. It was like he'd vanished. The only thing left was his name on that marriage certificate and a digital echo in her inbox. Spring came. But for Ava, nothing bloomed. She stopped talking about him at work. People had started avoiding the subject anyway. some with pity in their eyes, others with silent judgment. They thought she'd rushed it, that it was bound to fail. Maybe they were right, but that didn't make it hurt any less. At night, she'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, remembering how he once said, "I wish we could fall asleep under the same stars every night." Now, the stars felt colder, more distant. She never filed a response to the divorce, didn't fight it, didn't argue. Because what's the point of holding on to something that already let go of you? Weeks turned into months. Friends urged her to move on, to date again, to try. But Ava couldn't. Not because she didn't want love again, but because part of her had been buried with that goodbye. Or rather, with the absence of one. She boxed up their photos, deleted his contact, but never erased the email. Strange, isn't it? How something so painful becomes sacred. She didn't keep it because she wanted to remember. She kept it because it was all she had left. 12 words. That's all their love story came down to. The seasons changed, but Ava's apartment looked the same. Same couch, same books, same photo frames, just emptier now. It had been over a year. No word from Hunter. Not even a forwarded piece of mail. He was still legally her husband, technically, but emotionally. He had disappeared like a ghost who never meant to stay. She never told her parents what really happened. To them, the marriage was just difficult. To her, it was an open wound with no name. She didn't cry every day anymore. But the ache was still there, dull, constant, sitting right behind her ribs, like a breath that never fully exhaled. She tried. She really did. A coworker at the library, someone kind, had asked her to dinner. He was soft-spoken, funny, patient. She said yes. She wore lipstick for the first time in months, chose earrings that shimmered in the bathroom light. But when he reached across the table to touch her hand, her body froze, not out of fear, but guilt. This isn't Hunter's hand. Her chest tightened. She excused herself, walked into the women's room, and cried, not loud, not messy. Just enough to know she still wasn't ready. Later that night, she looked through an old notebook, one of those thick ones she used to fill with quotes, dreams, plans, scraps of poems she never finished. On the last page, in her own handwriting, it read, "You promised me forever and left before the coffee cooled." She didn't remember writing it, but she felt every word in her bones. That night, Ava deleted her dating profile. She returned the earrings to their box, and she stopped trying to convince herself that healing had a deadline. Some people lose a person. She lost a future. And some futures never come back. It was a rainy Thursday when she bumped into a stranger who looked like him. Same build, same eyes. Even the way he adjusted his collar, identical. For a split second, her heart stopped. She whispered, "Hunter?" But the man turned, smiled politely, and kept walking. Different voice, different life. Still, it wrecked her. She went home, took out their wedding photo, the only one she hadn't hidden. She stared at it for a long time. He looked happy in it. Or maybe he just looked convincing. That was the thing about Hunter. He always knew how to appear like the man you dreamed of. But dreams don't pay attention to details. And love, real love, is built in the moments after the magic fades. The hard mornings, the tired silences, the choices. And he had chosen to leave. Quietly, cruelly, completely. One night, she lit a candle and sat by her window. It was the 1-year anniversary of the email. Not their wedding, not their first kiss. Just the night she was broken by 12 words. And she said them out loud. For the first time. I can't do this anymore. Please consider this the beginning of the end." She said them slowly, clearly, like casting a spell in reverse. She blew out the candle. The room went dark. But something inside her stirred. Not hope. Not yet. But the beginning of acceptance. Years passed. Not quickly. Not with ease. Just quietly. Time didn't heal everything. But it gave Ava space. To breathe. To work. To exist. She stayed in Rhode Island. Same apartment. Same job at the library. She became the woman people could count on. The kind who remembered birthdays. Who brought tea to coworkers on cold mornings. Who never talked much about her personal life. And no one asked. Because sometimes silence becomes a part of who you are. She never dated again. Not out of bitterness. Not because she was stuck in the past. She simply never felt that way again. That spark. That breathless kind of hope that used to make her skin tingle when her phone lit up. It had left her. And it never returned. She filled her days with quiet things. Stacking books. Feeding birds. Watching old movies she already knew by heart. There was peace in routine. And maybe, in some small way, that was a kind of survival. Once, a friend asked if she ever regretted marrying him. Ava took a long breath, then said, "I don't regret loving him. I regret believing he loved me back the same way." There was no anger in her voice, just truth. Some wounds don't bleed. They just stay, deep under the skin, reminding you of what you lost. Not loudly, but constantly. She kept the wedding ring, not on her finger, just in a little wooden box, behind old letters and dried flowers. Sometimes she'd open it, just to see. Not to feel pain, but to remember that once she had trusted someone completely. And even though it broke her, she had loved. Ava never became famous, never moved to a big city, never started over the way movies tell you should. She stayed. She aged. She lived. And some nights, when the wind was soft and the world was quiet, she'd stand by her window and wonder. Not, why did he leave? Not anymore. But, did he ever think of me again? Did he ever miss the version of himself that I believed in? And the night would never answer, because some stories don't get closure. They just stop, like a book with the last page torn out. In the end, Ava grew old alone. Not lonely, just alone. She had neighbors who waved when she passed. A student or two who still remembered the stories she used to read aloud at the library. She had a garden with lavender and mint. She had silence, and learned to make peace with it. Her hair turned silver. Her steps became slower. But her eyes stayed sharp, like she was still waiting for something. Even if she longer knew what it was. She never spoke Hunter's name again. Not out loud, not even in memory. But on certain nights, when the world fell still, she would hum a melody he once played on the piano. Something soft. Something broken. Half finished, like their story. One winter, in her 70s, Ava passed away in her sleep. No pain. No drama. Just quiet, like the way he left. When they found her, there was no photo of him, no letter, nothing in sight to suggest she had ever loved someone so deeply. Except, inside a drawer, tucked beneath folded scarves, there was a little wooden box. And inside that box, the ring. The one he gave her. Still shining, still untouched. There was no note, no message. Just one folded scrap of paper. 4 words. Written in the same handwriting she'd used decades ago. I never stopped waiting. And maybe that's the real tragedy, isn't it? Not that he left, but that she stayed. In heart, in hope, in silence, long after he was gone. And if this story moved you, or even made you think, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone. And this story is a work of fiction. All characters, names, and situations are entirely made up and are not based on real individuals. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental.